my name's Dr. Bree. I think you guys all know this. I want to start tonight by sharing a story with you all about a woman that I thought I knew pretty well. Once upon a time, there was a woman, and every morning she woke up in her house in California. She went to work. She had a job she was passionate about. She took care of her family. She worked out frequently. She was eating well. And she built all these healthy habits, and this accumulation of habits created this foundation that she believed that she was healthy because of all these things that she was doing. Until one day, she went to her gynecologist for a wellness visit, sat down in a stool just like this, got her blood pressure taken, as you do, and the gynecologist looked at her and goes, "Are you feeling okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, why?" And the woman looks at her and goes, "Your blood pressure is 170 over 110. And this woman's like, whoa, and gets pretty scared. And because of that, because of being how scared she was, she listened to the doctor who said, "I need to refer you to the ER and you need to go get this checked out because you're relatively young, relatively healthy, you're not in the demographic I would expect. Go get your heart checked." She gets pretty scared. She goes to the doctor and they run all these tests. And because they run all these tests, there's more questions that come up. And because there's more questions that come up, there's further and further down the rabbit hole of testing. Well, she stays in this cycle for about 2 months, more and more tests and 0 answers. And because of this, the doctors start to get more and more concerned. And they go, "Your blood pressure is sky high. We have 0 answers. We've run every test in the book. And according to these tests, you are a perfectly healthy individual, but your blood pressure is through the roof." And because of that, they told her that you have something called idiopathic primary hypertension, which means we don't know what's going on, but you have high blood pressure. And that is as far down the rabbit hole of the root problem as you can get. That is the root of it, is primary hypertension. And because of that, she had this crack form in the foundation that she had built, the foundational belief that my body is fundamentally healthy. This crack formed. And into that crack started to seep fear and doubt and insecurity about that belief. And the doctor goes, "We've figured out what's going on. You have high blood pressure. You need to take these medications every single day for the rest of your life. And I hope you're not planning on getting pregnant because you can't take these while you're pregnant." And because of that cracked foundation, she almost listened. Almost. But she still had a lot of questions. So she started to ask more and more questions, and she started to ask different questions like, why is this such a problem in the first place? And she started to dig, and she dug, and she dug, and she dug, until finally, one day, she met a naturopath who said, listen to her talk all about her life and the workouts and the family and the job and all this, and she just recently had a move. Listen to her tell this whole story and goes, "I know what's going on here. You have stress." And the woman's like, no, you don't understand. I must have a tumor or a disease or something, right? And the naturopath's like, "No, stress. Your adrenals are shot. Your adrenal glands, which manage your stress, completely floored. You need to take a step back. You need to slow down, and you need to look at every aspect of your life here. Look at it differently." So I did. I looked at the family. I love my family. They can be a lot. Anyone been in this boat? They can be a lot. And my grandmother had just had a stroke that year, and it was hard on everybody. My friends, I love my friends. That specific year, my husband and I went to 9 weddings in the span of 3 months. It was a lot. The workouts, I loved working out, but I was pushing myself. That blurry picture was not edited. That's me and my dog. I was thinking that I had to get to the point where I was dripping sweat or it wasn't a good workout. You know what I mean? And the job, you guys know how passionate I am about chiropractic, but I was living in California at the time. And I had an hour-long commute between my office and my house, one direction. It was an hour there and it was an hour home. So an hour through Bay Area rush hour traffic. And ever since then, since I put that magnifying glass up to all this, I look at my body differently. I now have a new respect for the sensitivity of what it means to be a living, breathing human. We treat our bodies like they are machines made out of hard metal and they are meant to withstand anything that we throw at them. And how much stuff is getting thrown at us these days, you guys? A lot or a little? A lot. We treat them like they're meant to withstand anything, and we are organic humans, meaning we take on a lot. It's outrageous. So it's been 4 years since all of this went down, and I'm happy to say that that crack in my belief system, that my body is foundationally healthy, has completely healed. Because only a year into moving out of California and starting some very specific supplements for adrenal support, making some very specific lifestyle changes, and getting really stellar chiropractic care from the doctors at this office. I was getting adjusted before. I was not getting adjusted here. You guys know this place is a little different. A year into doing all of those things, completely off of blood pressure medication. I'm not taking anything. I mean, I'm taking supplements for my adrenals, which still take on a lot, but it's changeable. And I share this story because I see a lot of people go through similar things, and I don't see the same outcomes every time. And I know that there's so much that goes into this. I'm not saying that you can take yourself off of every medication in the world, but it's more changeable than we think. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the season that's coming up, winter. Has anyone ever felt like this? Does anyone feel like this right now? Hopefully not. Some of you got adjusted today. So let me ask you, how do you know for sure when you're stressed? I like teaching interactive workshops. You guys just shout stuff out, okay? This is not Dr. Bree talking head for 45 minutes. That's boring. So just shout stuff out. How do you know when you're stressed?
When I don't want a hobby.
Do the stuff that you love. I love that. That makes sense to me. What else?
When I get angry.
Shorter fuse. Me too. I used to blame that on the red hair, but it's definitely stress. Yep. What else?
When I come from an adjustment, Dr. Ashley goes, oh my God.
What are these rocks up here? Yeah, she does that to me too. What did you say, Lindy?
Not sleeping. It's a good one.
Sleeping is when your body's meant to be able to power down. If it's not thinking that it can power down, it doesn't feel safe to power down. So it's like, we gotta still be fighting and flighting, right? That's a good one. Anything else? So all of these indicators, you guys have a different mind about this than I think a lot of people. Most people have no clue how to tell when they're stressed. And that word stress, it gets tossed around so much these days that I think we get desensitized to it. You know, you talk about anything enough and we'll get desensitized to it, right? But the winter season is when people tend to have the most stress, and I'm talking physical, mental, and immune system stress. That's why we're all here tonight, because all of you guys have some kind of level of awareness or concern about one or all three of those. Winter is when we have the most, and it's when we tend to get the most sick. Immune system sick, but also physically and mentally sick. Excuse me. And it's serious. Some of you feel this, I know, right now in this room. So we need to figure out a different approach. There's a blank paper on all of your clipboards there. Somewhere on the front or the back there, I want you guys to write, at the very top, write Dr. Bree's protocol for winter wellness. Just right up at the top. And we're going to write a few different headings right under this. Okay, somewhere under there, I want you to write physical and underline it. And you're going to write stuff under each one of these categories. So leave yourself some room. Physical, mental, and immune. And if you guys need more paper here as we go through, just let Dr. Ashley or Jay know. We got you. All right, let's figure out a different approach, because stuff we're doing ain't working. I had a girlfriend come and stay with us the other day. She is an ER nurse. I know there's some nurses and retired nurses here in the room, so you guys will resonate with this. She came and stayed with us, and I was like, what are you up to? And she's like, oh, gearing up for winter season. I was like, yeah, me too. I had to warm up my car for like 10 minutes the other day, and just did the whole thing with my hoses. She's like, no, we are gearing up for winter season. I was like, what do you mean? And she shows me this graph. This is a chart. If you guys caught this on our Instagram last night, I showed you this. This is a chart that correlates the number of deaths specifically related to cardiac disease and the months of the year. Now, what do you guys see in the middle? Giant spike. What's happening right here? Christmas and New Year's. And I looked at her, I was like, why? And without hesitating, she's like, stress. Absolutely no question. So let's talk about what this is, and then we're going to talk about what to do about it, okay? Cortisol. Who's heard of cortisol? Let me see some hands. Everybody. Fantastic. Cortisol is known as your stress hormone. I'm going to tell you a secret. It's actually your anti-stress hormone. It's your how I deal with stress hormone. It's your how I get through the most important thing, the active thing right now hormone. That's why your body releases it. Crash course in how cortisol works. When it gets released in the body, it goes in, it's your normal it's your go to active mode hormone, and it suppresses your normal go into action hormone, which is testosterone. And this suppresses in men as well as women. Now, what is this creating in a hormonal state in men as well as women? That looks different for each sex, but it's a reality. The higher the cortisol, the lower the testosterone. We can go down another rabbit hole of what that looks like hormonally. Dr. Andrew and I taught a 2-hour-long workshop. If you want the link, Ashley can send it to you. But historically high levels of cortisol used to be reserved for, running away from a saber-toothed tiger. That's why we have this stuff built in. But flash forward to today, and we pump out cortisol at such high levels that it is overwhelming the adrenal system. The adrenal glands are the guys that make and release the cortisol in the first place. At such high levels throughout the day, very few of us are actually running away from a saber-toothed tiger. When's the last time you guys saw one of these? It's been a few decades, right? So the stress that we are currently experiencing have all of these actions, they've led towards a very acute cortisol reaction, and it's mostly coming from stuff like this. It's our sleep, Linda, you hit on that. It's our sugar, it's our diet, our alarm clock going off in the morning, cortisol bang through the roof. Standing closer to the microwave, running late, driving, that was my entire Bay Area commute. Mild dehydration, financial distress, arguments, bad relationships. There's so much on this list. That's not all of things. But there's so many things here that are currently going on in our society that were not part of our programming when we were evolved biologically, right? Now, what about anxiety? Anyone ever had anxiety in this room? I absolutely have. Yeah, or currently do. Anxiety and excitement, you guys may know this, anxiety and excitement are the same thing neurologically in the body. The same hormones and the same signals are getting secreted. Anxiety is a perpetual state of readiness with no outlet. Excitement means you're getting ready, and then usually there's some kind of outlet, there's a discharge of that electrical signal, usually something that we like, right? Think about something you've been excited about recently. That thing probably happened, right? Anxiety means you're getting ready, and you don't go anywhere, or you can't go anywhere. It's foot on the gas and the car's in neutral, or the car's in park. Make sense? This is why getting up and moving is such an anxiety relief for so many people. Physical movement is the body's natural release of that buildup of excitement or of anxiety. The challenge, and we'll talk about this a little later on, is that if it's not a physical stress, if you're not anxious about something physically, if you're anxious about something like socially or mentally, and you try to use a physical outlet like exercise and cardio, that's gonna feel great while you're doing it, and maybe while the endorphins are all there for like 30 minutes afterward, but what happens after those endorphins burn off? Just crashes, it crashes. We've all been through this. Everybody, I guarantee, in this room has tried to physically exercise their way out of an anxiety, panic, or mental stressor before, right? So we'll go talk about that more in a bit. If these things stay present long enough, if you stay in this perpetual state of readiness for long enough, we go down this chart here now. So melatonin, what's melatonin do in the body? Makes you what? Sleepy. Melatonin goes down. Does that make our stress better or worse? Worse, yeah. Blood pressure, up. Living example. Cortisol, up. Clotting factors, what makes your blood stick together and heal. Good for when you cut yourself, not good for when your blood's all still inside your body. Goes up. Insulin sensitivity, how sensitive are you to picking up blood sugar from your bloodstream and absorbing it into your body? That goes down. So now blood sugar circulating through the body is going to be higher. That leads towards what chronic metabolic disease? Diabetes, yes. Inflammation up, connective tissues get weaker. And what happens to the immune system? Tanks. Here's the thing. We need cortisol. We need it sometimes. Anybody have kids in this room? Let me see. Okay, if your kid runs out into the middle of the street, do you want to be coming from napping mode or do you want to be kind of ready? Ready. You need this reactivity sometimes, not all the time. So we have to figure out how to help the body navigate in a healthy way between the fight or flight state and the rest and digest state. You should always be in this state of constant flux, you guys. Constant flux. You're never in a static state. That doesn't exist in the body. But when the cortisol just jacks up, it throws off our hormones. It can cause depression, anxiety, insomnia, chronic fatigue. Mental health goes down. Again, the testosterone goes down, so libido and sex drive go down, ruins our quality of life, promotes insulin resistance, weight gain, this nasty cycle. It's a mess. But stress is part of life, right? Right? Yeah. Not the modern stress. Modern stress is invented. I don't know if anyone's going to like me saying this, but I'm going to say it. We have created the state that we currently live in. The kind of stuff we get stressed about these days, like, where's my cell phone charger? That's enough to cause a panic attack in the wrong situation, you know? It's self-created. And what's worse is that we have subconsciously taught this to our children. They see us panicking about things, and they think that must be a significant stress, so I better get stressed on behalf of my mom, and then when I get in that situation, what's going to happen? It's real, and it should be accepted just to have that kind of stress around. Your body is constantly communicating to you. We all talked about how do I know when I'm stressed, right? It's constantly sending you these signals, and this list of symptoms, those are signals. You just don't always know to look for that kind of stuff and what that means. Is that a smart warning system or what? You guys all have a car? Everyone drive in this room? When your car has the dash in front of it and there's all those lights that light up, your car is telling you about what's happening on the inside. I can't feel, I have zero idea when my check engine light goes off, what's actually wrong with the car. But I see the signal and I go, okay, that's an indicator. I drive a ON Chevy truck and that thing leaks oil. And I'm constantly reliant on checking the oil and worst case scenario, waiting for the light to come on. But those are there for a reason. Now here's the key. How you listen to and how you respond to those little check engine lights, to your body signals, that is what makes all the difference. So most people in this room, you guys know what to look for. It's a matter of, okay, well, what do I do when I find something like that, right? Am I wrong in that? You guys are probably all on the same page, right? So the 5 most dangerous words in healthcare, does anyone have a guess at this? 5 most dangerous words. Maybe it will go away. If we're going to write anything down, maybe write that down. I've been in that situation. I thought about that with the blood pressure thing. I was like, I don't know, maybe it'll go away, right? What's worse is if I know that there's a problem. If my check oil light goes on in my truck and I take a piece of duct tape and I stick it over the top of it, is my oil gonna get better? No, what's gonna happen to my truck? It's gonna blow up and I won't be able to get here and then everyone will say, where's Dr. Bree? So the equivalent of this, please don't mistake this for me bashing Western medicine. There is a time and a place for everything. But the tendency in our society is to go, that light's going off, I'm going to take this medication so the light stops going off. But what's happening in the engine under the surface? The problem is still there and it's getting perpetuated, and probably your body's going to go, hey, we need to send a louder signal because the last one didn't get noticed. And so now it's really going to, and then it's just going to up and up and up your necessity for that medication in order to turn the light off. Make sense? Say yes if that makes sense. Yes. Okay, good. You fall asleep and you feel better, and meanwhile the problem's getting worse. So we have to try another way. Now, like I said, most people in this room, you guys know your body's giving you signals, or you know that you're about to go into a season where your body tends to give you signals. The question is, what to do about it. First things first, we have to recognize where we are on this spectrum. If you guys have been to workshops here before, you have seen this chart. This is a continuum of wellness and illness. Now here in the middle, neutral, this is where I feel fine. I have no pain, I have no symptoms, I feel fine, right? Now as soon as it starts being hard for me to turn my head to the left, that might be a sign. It's just difficult. It's not painful, but it's difficult. That's a sign, right? Now what if I don't do anything about that? It gets more stuck and more stuck. Okay, now it's painful for me to turn my head to the left. That's now going this way, and we're into what? Symptoms, right? If we don't do anything about that, now it's degenerating, now it's breaking down on the inside. It might lead towards me not being able to do things, actually disabling me, right? Disability, and if I don't progress in a more positive direction, it's gonna lead towards premature death of the nerve, of the tissues, of myself, if this is a nerve that's going to somewhere important. This side of the spectrum is where the majority of healthcare will focus because we're worried about getting people out of crisis mode and getting them just to fine, right? There's so much chronic metabolic disease. We're just worried about crisis management, right? Now there is another side to this spectrum. And what I want you guys to do is maybe even draw a little line on that paper somewhere and just put a little check and be like, I am here. I am in this spot right now. And then think to yourself or draw a little arrow, be like, currently with my life, what I'm doing, my habits, I'm heading in this direction. Hopefully everybody's is pointing this way, but maybe not. Maybe there's a lot going on right now. We need to be aware of what direction we're heading in, not just where we are currently. Arguably, that is the more important thing to know. Not just where you stand, but what direction you're going in. Agreed? Okay. The second thing we need to learn how to do is how to speak body. I really think about this like a language, you guys. I tell this to my patients all the time. Your body's giving you this signal. Now we need to know why, and we need to know what that means. It's like a language. The better you get at speaking this language, the more you understand the why and the what and the how. And I put a chart, maybe 2 or 3 pages down there, that's got a brain and a spinal cord and a whole bunch of numbers and a whole bunch of words on that. Flip to that chart and just peek at it. This is a nerve chart. This is your map. This is your entire, what's that program called where you learn to speak languages? Help me out. Duolingo. Yeah, whatever. This is your Duolingo for chiropractic, for the nervous system. Your Duolingo for your body, okay? If we know, go all the way over to the right, if we know what our body's saying, look at that little list of symptoms, just like look at it and maybe put some checks. Be like, yep, had that before. I have that right now. I know someone who has that, right? Put some little checks and then go backwards and go, well, what area of the body is responsible for controlling that? And one layer deeper, what nerve is responsible for talking to that layer of the body? If we can understand this, you guys, we can learn to speak body. Does this make sense? Not a little, if this makes sense. Make sure I'm not losing anyone. Okay, good. Okay. Now, what causes stress to those nerves? If we know where the problems are coming from, what causes these problems in the first place? Who can take a guess? Stress. But if we think about what causes those different types of stress, there's, in chiropractic, we call this the 3 T's. Everyone hold up 3. 3 T's. The first one is thoughts. This is your mental stress. There are a lot of things that can fall into this category. It's so diverse for every single person. This could be relationships, this could be family, this could be work, anything that's causing mental or emotional stress. Okay? The second thing is traumas, and this is your physical stressors. Now there's 2 different types of physical stressors. There's car accident. Is that big or small? Big. Car accident is a big physical stress that happens all at once. Now what if I am like 80% of Americans and this is my job? Big or small stress? Big, yes. Accumulatively big, Karen, you're totally right. But if I only sit like this for one day, it may be a small stress, that one day. But 5 years down the line, I mean, how many years do people typically work at a desk their entire career? My dad was a CPA, you guys, he just retired for 45 years. That man's x-rays. I wish I could show you. I was not given permission. Okay, that's the traumas piece. If you want to, on your list there, you can kind of start to jot some ideas of here's some mental stressors that I think I have. Here's some physical stressors that I think I might have or had in the past. The last one, toxins. Now this is chemical stress. Chemical stress is anything that can cause inflammation in the body. Who can think of something that could cause inflammation in your body? I like all of these answers. Anything that you ingest, food, alcohol, whatever, has the potential to cause inflammation. What determines that is how sensitive you are to it. Most people, pretty sensitive to alcohol. They're gonna have some kind of reaction, right? All these different food groups, right? Gotta know what we're sensitive to. I missed some of those other answers. Actual chemicals, right? Oh my gosh, and cleaning materials, everything, whatever, they know, we don't do this, but whatever they treat most carpets with, Ashley's face. The air, smoke season, a chemical stress, right? So what's wise, I think, is that we know in our brain what kind of stressors each of us are exposed to, because that's gonna cause the stress, and then what does the stress cause inside the body? A whole bunch of different things. From a chiropractic perspective, your body adapts to that stress, shifts bones out of place, they get stuck, it affects a nerve, and we call it a subluxation. Thanks, Toby. Also painful, yes, it is usually painful. Not always though, right? I'm gonna say a lot of stuff tonight that's a little controversial, sorry. Who wants to play? Give me some hands. Francesca. What is that? Can you say it louder? Acorn. An acorn. That is an acorn. Okay, what do these turn into? What kind of trees? Oak trees. 100 out of 100 times, if I expect this to grow into a tree, it will grow into an oak tree. Agreed? Yeah. Yes, okay. Now, Francesca, put that under your chair. And we're just gonna leave it there, and we're not gonna let the cleaning people pick it up, and we're just gonna leave it there for like 2 months, okay? Now, 2 months from now, if I go back and I look at Fran's acorn and I go, that's not an oak tree. Why not? Not lemon trees, not pine trees. You guys told me they turned into oak trees. So why don't I have an oak tree?
Not in the right environment.
It's not in the right environment. What does it need? That, yes. Fertilizer, Randy, thank you. Dirt, sun, everything. The environment, that's what's missing, right? The environment. Now this statement, this is a controversial statement. This has been a very controversial statement over the last 2 to 3 years. During exposure to a virus that we thought we had previously not been exposed to. Because what I'm saying here is that you don't get sick. It doesn't just happen to you. You do sick. Meaning, I create my own internal environment, and some things will affect me and some things won't. I know. I don't do sick. I don't do that. She does healthy. Last weekend I went to McMinimans and I stayed there with a bunch of girlfriends, and we stayed in this women's hostel, and it's like, open space. Like I'm sleeping in someone else's bunk and there's like 15 other people in there. And there was a woman in the corner that wasn't in our group who was hacking up a cough the entire time. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, oh boy. And so we get home and my other girlfriend the other day calls me and she's like, man, I am so sick. And I thought to myself, I was like, we were all in the same room. So why did my girlfriend get sick and why didn't I get sick?
Because you don't do sick either.
I don't do sick. I don't do that. It's the internal environment, right? And I'm not saying this, you guys, like I'm some superhuman. Trust me, I have a lot of stress. I got 2 concussions from the same horse. I should probably do something about this. Over the last month, I have stress. But I take great care because I know those stressors. I take great care in curating my internal environment so that when I get exposed, not if I get exposed, when I get exposed to something, I don't care if it's COVID, I don't care if it's whatever that woman had, I know probably what it's going to do or not do to my body. Okay? It's actionable. You don't get sick, you do sick, and you don't get healthy, you do healthy. So let's make it actionable. Okay, under that mental health category, we're gonna be chatting about all this stuff. There are 3 things we need to get right. Number 1, mental health. Number 2, physical health. Number 3, immune health. The mental health thing, I actually think this should be a whole nother workshop. We should probably do a whole nother workshop on this. We're gonna talk about it for like 5 minutes. These are Dr. Bree's top 4 essentials on mental health. Number 1, attitude. We don't get to choose the stuff that happens to us, but we have complete control over how we react to it. Agree or disagree? Agree. Thank you. I know everyone in this room agrees on that. Connection. Humans, I think maybe like 3 months into working here, I don't know why I remember this, but we're standing up there and Dr. Andrew asked me, he's like, do you think that humans are herd animals? I think we're talking about horses or something. He's like, do you think humans are herd animals? I was like, definitely. And he's like, definitely. We are not individual. Like if we were found out in the wild, we wouldn't be like individually free roaming. We would be in groups, right? Biologically, we need this. It is all about connection. You have to have a tribe, or you have to have people that you know you can lean on for mental health, but for so many other things. Number 3, grace. This means grace for yourself as well as other people. We are not perfect. Karen, you're pretty darn perfect. Renee, you're pretty darn perfect, but we're not all the way perfect. Mike, Ali, obviously, I know you guys are pretty perfect, but we're not all the way perfect. So I have a friend that says we have a tendency to expect other people to be a finished product while we give ourselves the grace to evolve. And that has always stuck with me. We expect other people to be a completely finished thing, like they've got it all together, and we expect that of them. Meanwhile, we know that we're still getting there, and you know what I mean? We have to have grace with ourselves, and we have to have grace with other people. That means in the pursuit of perfection and just getting better, be kind to yourself. The last one here, this is bolded because I really want to talk about this one. The mental environment that we curate is our most sacred space. It's really the only one that we have most control over. It's our most sacred space. We all have 4 limited resources. Do you guys know these? Energy, money, focus, and time. These are the 4 limited resources. Time, I think, is the most valuable and the most fragile and the most finite of all 4 of those. The time that you have on this earth is really precious. It's not something you can buy. It's not something you can speed up or slow down, but you can share it. Spend your time really wisely, and you will create a healthy mental ecosystem. We have to be very intentional about this specific resource. Treat it like what it is. When you share it with other people, treat it as your most valuable and limited resource. So my question to you guys is, well, what's the opposite of good quality time? What's the opposite of that?
Wasted time.
Wasted time, that's what I used to think, and I think that's still true. And there's another layer to it now where I think that the opposite of quality time is actually distraction. For the longest time, from the time that we wake up in the morning, that alarm goes off, from the time we wake up in the morning to the time that we put our head on the pillow and go to sleep, we are bombarded by so many things, whether it's people or technology or the environment. We're just bombarded with potential distraction. And again, we have to create our environment. We have to create what we are intentionally going to be taking in to our mental environment. For example, being distracted, it pollutes. I call this like a time pollutant. A distraction is almost like a time pollutant. Being distracted, it pollutes your internal environment. And if I'm on my phone while I'm trying to talk with Dr. Ashley, how is she going to feel? Probably pretty crummy. She's like, my time is valuable, woman. Her time is insanely valuable. You guys know how hard this lady works. If I'm on my phone and I'm in any way distracted while I'm trying to talk with her, she's gonna be like, I'm out. Let me know when you're ready. She doesn't stand for that. I think we could all take a page out of that book. We have to set a very high standard here because this is not the expectation anywhere. I struggle with this with everybody, myself included. Again, not perfect. It destroys our mental relationship ecosystem. It cheapens the most valuable resource that we have. And for what? Like a couple keystrokes? Or looking on Facebook at someone else's life? What's more important here? The solution, to sum it up, to this pollution is presence. That's the most important mental thing that we can possibly have going into this next season. Slow down, have presence. To be present and maintain a full conscious intent to value and honor and really appreciate the time that you share with others. And hold that standard. Be a Dr. Ashley. I'm trying all the time. All right, you guys have another handout on there. I made this a couple of years ago now, maybe 2 years ago. It says 8 types of rest on the top. Now here's the image I want to create in everybody's head. There's 8 different batteries all lined up in a row, okay? There's a physical battery, there's a mental battery, there's a social battery, there's whatever order this list goes in, okay? Now we go through the day, and at the end of the day, all of these batteries are drained to some extent. If I just go out and run a marathon, which battery is going to be on empty? The physical one. If I'm a super introverted person, which I am, and I get to the end of the week, which battery is going to be really, really drained if I've been around other people the whole time? Social, okay. So if we understand that our body has these different sets of batteries and we know how to rest more strategically, we can actually recharge those batteries so much more efficiently. If I get to the end of my week and I've just been bombarded with all this stuff and my sensory system is it's shot, and I try to get home and I watch Netflix for like 3 hours, is that solving my sensory deprivation problem? No, it's making it worse. I'm getting physical rest for sure. I got my feet up on the coffee table, my butt on the couch, but my sensory system, no. Probably not, a couple of those other ones too. So I made this handout and we worked on this together as a team of docs because we wanted to come up with some ideas that we could give people. And I encourage you to use this cheat sheet. If you're feeling drained and you're like, I'm trying to rest, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep a night and I don't know what else to do, go through this and be like, what am I getting drained on the most? And what could I be doing instead? There's some ideas there. This is definitely not an extensive or exhaustive list. And I want to hear if you guys are trying more things and you're like, Dr. Bree, I've got the best idea for you when it comes to social rest. I would love to know what that is because we're always changing these stuff. Okay, number 2, physical health. Don't stop moving. During the winter, it's a very slow down season, and that's natural. I don't want to say that we need to be as fast paced as we are during summer because that's going to exhaust the system. We can slow down a little, but we can't stop moving entirely. What tends to happen at the end of the holiday season? Does this happen to anybody? Get a little rounder right around the middle, right? What studies are recently showing is that it only takes 12 minutes a day to keep yourself relatively physically fit. It has to be a very intentional 12 minutes, and usually something that gets your heart rate up a little bit, but this doesn't have to be a 2-hour-long workout. We can all find something that we enjoy that we can do for 12 minutes every single day. I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys just to shout out some of your favorite winter activities that you like to do physically. Snowshoeing, I love that. Sleeping. Resting the physical battery, I get that too. Skiing, totally. How about some indoor stuff? Anyone do indoor? Yoga, totally. Hot yoga. Shout out to Fran. Play with the dog inside. I love that. We can totally toss a toy for an hour and that dog's gonna keep going. Hide and seek. Yeah, we gotta be physically involved in this, right? There's so many things here. So think for a minute about what that would look like for you and make it something fulfilling. Don't make it something that you hate. There's so many options. Endorphins are great. Endorphins will happen after a series of physical exercise, but remember, don't try to, squash anxiety, a mental or a social, whatever kind of anxiety, with a physical outlet. Does this make sense? Okay.
Say that again.
Don't try to, if you are feeling anxiety, and if the anxiety isn't a direct product of needing to physically, I should say this differently. If you have anxiety, let's say I'm anxious about an upcoming talk that I have to do at Pangea. If I go for a run, I'm going to feel better while I'm running, and I'm going to feel better for a little bit after, but the talk is still there, and the talk is still coming, and I haven't really done anything productive to help myself with that. So what would help me more is to sit down and plan out my talk and get ready and gather my props and talk to Ashley and Angela and whatever. If I have a mental anxiety about something very specific, I need to be working directly on that, not trying to use physical exercise as an outlet. Does that make sense? Okay, it does help. I'm not saying it hurts, but it's not going to necessarily solve the problem. Okay, quiz time. I told Angela I was going to ask everyone a bunch of questions and she gave me free stuff. So you guys get to answer questions and I want to throw something at you, okay? What physical system in your body helps you deal with sickness and infection? Immune. I heard you, James. Sorry, I'm real bad at throwing. It hit the chair. My husband's like, if you want to be safe, stand directly where she's trying to throw something. I'll come over and hand it to you. Okay, what system helps you deal with food?
Digest.
Nice. Ooh, breathe. That's a good one. So these are all different essential oils and or cough drops. What about with gravity and movement?
Physical.
Physical system. What system in the body?
Oh, musculoskeletal.
Yeah. Ooh, on guard. Nice. These are little samples of essential oils. We'll talk about these after, okay? Okay. What about what system helps you deal with stress? Crickets. Endocrine. You're not allowed to play. You're not allowed to play. Yes, sort of. The hormones. What controls the hormones? Ashley. Did you want some On Guard? Is that what this is about? Here you go. Here you go. You can have it. You can have it. Then, can you say it louder for the people in the back?
The nervous system.
The nervous system. So interesting. Interesting here. We all know that our lives are stressful and we know that stress makes us sick, but none of us, I'm not saying this to bash anybody because I didn't know this before either. None of us know that we have a specific organ system to deal with this. Our nervous system, our brain and our spinal cord and our nerves, its primary job, the reason we got one of these is to help us deal with stress. Let's talk about it. Who's heard this word before? All right, I'm going to borrow another volunteer. Lindy, can I borrow you? You were going to volunteer anyway. All right, Lindy is going to do a demo here of a subluxation. So I want you all to picture, what's the plant that supplies energy to Bend? So we have like a PG&E or something up here.
It supplies what?
Anyway, wherever the power plant is that's supplying electricity. Pacific Power. Okay, Pacific Power, picture those guys way over there with their big towers. Now they're sending electricity all the way to this building right now, and it's coming in through the main wire. It's going up to these wires right here. That light switch over there on the wall is telling these lights turn on, okay? Now Lindy, I want you to go over there and hit one of those light switches off, just for a second. Okay. Now, what did Lindy just act as here in the middle of this? Subluxation. That light switch, yes, that light switch just interrupted the electrical signal between the power plant and the end of the line over here, which is the light bulb. Now, in the human body, the power plant is what organ? The brain. The brain is sending a message along the electrical signal all the way through these wires to, let's say that this is my heart, or let's say that this that just went off is my heart. Okay? What's keeping the electricity from getting to my heart? The subluxation. Now, Lindy, I want you to flip that back on. Lindy's a chiropractor. She just flipped that light switch back on. Now, here's the real thing. Lindy, are you responsible for sending the electricity over here? Or are you responsible for flipping the light switch? Yeah. This is the biggest mistake that gets, or not mistake, the biggest myth about chiropractors is we're healing the body and we're doing all this stuff. We're not actually healing the body. We're responsible for flipping the light switches on. And then what sends the electricity all the way over here? The brain. There is this fantastic thing that all of us in this room, every single living thing has called innate intelligence. Which means your brain, given the right support, knows exactly where that electricity is supposed to go. And if we remove all those interferences, all those subluxations, it'll go bang, light switches back on. Okay? Now, if Lindy, instead of turning that all the way off, had just dimmed the light, is that still a subluxation? Yes. Not as bad or not as noticeable, maybe? It might still be just as bad. Because what if that's a nerve that goes to my heart? Are you guys cool with like 60% nerve function to your heart? Maybe not 100. It's fine, you still have 60. I don't know, I kind of want 100, right? All right. The nervous system is specifically there to help you adapt and cope and tolerate stress. The body knows this. It knows this. It's so crucial that it actually builds a column of bone around the thing, around the spinal cord. What other organ system in the body gets bones built directly around that single organ? None of them. I mean, the rib cage, yeah, is holding everything kind of together, but the heart doesn't have bone around it. The lungs don't have bone around them. The nerve system gets this. If nothing else, this tells us how important the nerve system is in the body. The body knows. It's your suit of armor. That's why we put that over Cindy's window over there. Got her armor up. And we only get one of these, you guys. No replacement parts here. One of the biggest concerns that we hear from our patients around this time of year is that my kid just started school, or I've got a whole bunch of travel coming up and I really don't want to get sick, Dr. Bree. In the United States, we have a candy holiday, followed by a pie holiday, next a cookies and candy holiday, right before the boozer holiday, and we have the nerve to call it flu season rather than sugar poisoning season. Our gut microbiome is the largest influence on the immune system in the entire body. There's a lot of good bacteria in there, right? You guys have heard of the microbiome. There's little bacteria that live in your small intestine. We eat probiotics to help feed those guys, right? Now there's also potential for bad bacteria to grow in there. And what do those guys eat for food? Sugar. Can you say it louder?
Sugar.
Sugar.
Sugar, can I have an oil?
Exactly, yeah. Oh shoot, I should. I'll give you guys both one. Amanda, I heard you too.
You know how me and gifts go.
You always win the raffle at the end. There you go. I'm sorry, it was close. It was close. Okay. Sugar, yes. When we overdose our system with sugar, we are literally decimating the healthy microbiome and we're feeding the bad guys, making our immune system super weak, overgrowing the unhealthy ones. And yet we get super confused when we get sick around this time of year. It must be flu season, right? Must be the cold weather. That's it. All right, last one, immune health. Here's my best tips for proper immune support. There's kind of two things that go along with this. There's what you can actually put into your body as far as food, and then we're going to talk supplements in a second, okay? Food. As many vegetables as you want. Doesn't matter. Don't put a limit on it. Just as many as you want. As many dark leafy greens as you want, for sure, because those guys are full of vitamins and minerals and all the things. Lean cuts of natural meat, fish, eggs, wild caught fish is really best. Fruit, nuts, and seeds, those are okay, just some, just moderate a little bit. And then as little to no refined sugar and carbohydrates as possible. Processed foods should be on that list too, because there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff in those, you guys, that we just can't pronounce and don't want in our body, okay? I'm gonna say something else, and I think maybe we'll write this one down too. Every single thing that you put into your body is either feeding disease or fighting it. Everything you put into your body is either feeding disease or fighting it. Now, most of that's going to be food, but maybe some of that is the news. Maybe it's social media. Maybe it's who I choose to spend my time with. Every single thing that comes into my sensory system is either helping me or hurting me. And I gotta be wise about this. Gotta be conscious about it. There are supplements that I'll take on a maintenance basis just to kind of have a good level of health throughout the year. And there are other supplements that I'll take specifically when I feel like I'm getting sick. And I want to tell you guys what those are. Now, the dosages for these is not a medical recommendation, obviously, but these are just guidelines of what I typically will go to when I am feeling sick. So elderberry, everyone's heard of elderberry. You find it at any grocery store you want these days. Be careful with elderberry, especially in the syrup form, because it can get real sugary. Which, is that doing what we want or doing the opposite of what we want? The opposite. It's feeding all those bad bacteria. Elderberry is a really potent antioxidant, which means it goes around and it sweeps up a lot of the bad guys that are getting produced from your body trying to fight something off, and it'll flush those through your system. Powerful antioxidant. Vitamin D. Who grew up as a kid hearing their mom say, you should probably drink some orange juice because it's got a lot of vitamin C in it, and that's good for your immune system, right? I totally got this growing up. Orange juice has a lot of vitamin C. What they're finding now is that vitamin D is a more potent immune system stimulant than vitamin C. So if you're feeling under the weather, go first to vitamin D. Some vitamin C, yes, but vitamin D is more important. I typically go between 10 and 20,000 IUs of this when I'm feeling sick. You agree?
Yeah, I grabbed one too, just throw them.
Oh, right on. More Ashley's being real nice today, you guys. We got a lot of prizes here at the end. All right, vitamin D, 10 to 20,000 IUs, that means international units, when sick. Vitamin C is important as well, especially when combined with zinc. You don't have to do it, it's okay. 5 to 10,000 is usually where I'll go in the IU range for that one. And then zinc, if you can find a vitamin C and a zinc that are paired together, that's better. If not, then zinc right on its own. I want to say the liquid form is more potent. It's better absorbed by the body. We have some of it here. It doesn't taste great.
Liquid form of zinc?
Yes. Does it work really well? Yes. That's what matters. All right. Good? Okay. I put this slide up here and my husband was laughing at me. He's like, what did you Google to get this picture? The most dangerous belief is that problems will go away if we ignore them. Do you guys want to guess how much money it costs the United States government per year because of sick employees? Just wild guesses. Let me hear it. Billions. Trillions. Did you hear this? Dr. Andrew told me this like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, I got to tell people this in my class. $250 billion a year in what we call absenteeism. That means people not being at work and what that costs the business. It costs the government $250 billion per year. That's for absenteeism. Now let's think about presenteeism. Who in here works in an office involved with other people? If someone else is sick, do you have to pick up some of that slack? And how much work do you get done then? Maybe less than if you were only responsible for your job, right? That actually affects everybody else as well. So there's a lot more involved in this. 5 most dangerous words in healthcare, maybe it'll go away. All right, last little demo here. Like I said, I like being interactive. Ellie, thanks. That's a peso, sorry. It's the first thing in my wallet, I don't know why it's there. How many sides are there on that coin? Just,
sides?
yeah.
4. Actually, 3.
You're supposed to say 2.
2.
Ellie already knows. She already knows. The first side of this coin is increased tolerance, and the second side is decreased stress. There's a constant battle in healthcare between which one of these guys is more important. You'll hear doctors all the time say, you got all this stuff going on? Okay, you need to decrease your stress. You hear other doctors say, you know what? You need to make yourself stronger. You need to increase your tolerance. Here's what I know. There are great strategies for reducing stress. And you should do this, but let's face it, stress is not going to go away. Agree or agree? It's just going to be there. Stress is going to be there no matter what. Some of it we can't reduce. So why not learn to also increase our tolerance to something that we're inevitably going to face? Now, what Ellie said there is that there are actually how many sides on that coin? 3. The third side is narrow. It gets missed. But it's there. It's the edge. The third state of the coin is this. You can either change the environment to suit the weakened body, or you can change the body to suit the environment. I'm going to say that again. You can either change the environment, what's around you, to suit a weakened body, a weakened system, or you can change the body to suit the environment. In other words, it's not about the strength of the virus, it's about the strength of the host. These 2 principles, 2 sides of the same coin. Healthiest people in the world know this about health and healing when it comes to thriving in a naturally stressful world, is that you need both sides. So here's my best advice. Get really clear on what's important to you. Work on your body, work on your mind. Involve your children. Form your tribe or join one, because we need community. We can't do this by ourselves. And remember, you can do this. I mean, what's the alternative?
Fine. It's fine.
Fine. Maybe. I'm going to try not to cry. Hold on. This is Sage. His mom's been getting adjusted for like a year, maybe, for a while. She's due with her second right now. She and I are friends outside of the office, and we're talking, and she's like, Sage has been really sick lately, like really sick. He's gotten like 5 or 6 flus since the beginning of the year, since January. And right now he's got these ear infections that will just not go away. And she's telling me all this, and she's looking at me, and she's like, she's a really smart and really intelligent person. But she's looking at me and she's like, well, that's just a little ear infection, right? He's been sick. He's had the flu 5 or 6 times. He's been on 5 or 6 rounds of antibiotics this year, this specific year. It's not even December yet. It takes how many years for a kid to kick an antibiotic and regrow a healthy microbiome?
2 years.
2 years for 1 round of antibiotics. This kid's been on 5. Dr. Ashley and I were texting earlier. I was like, how long? And she's like, 2 years. Most kids get a round of antibiotics average about once every 1.5 years.
Yeah, it's 1.3 to 1.7.
Yeah, which means do they ever fully regrow their microbiome? No. So his mom's looking at me and she's like, but it's just a little ear infection. Is this rare? Has this happened to any of you? As a kid, people that you know, getting chronic ear infections, being on antibiotics for who cares how many rounds, right? Yeah, I mean, 2 years in, we may be looking at a chronic ear infection. 30 years in, we're looking at leaky gut, dysregulated menstrual cycles, food sensitivities, anxiety, chronic disease. And it made me think about this, which is what I'm going to try not to cry about, because I always do. This was written by the developer of chiropractic in 1944. And his mom telling me all this made me think of this, so I want to share it with you guys. A slip on the snowy sidewalk in the winter is a small thing. It happens to millions. A fall from a ladder in the summer is a small thing. That also happens to millions. A slip or a fall produces a subluxation. Subluxation is a small thing. Subluxation produces pressure on a nerve. That pressure is a small thing. The pressure cuts off the flow of mental impulses. That decreasing flowing is a small thing. That decreased flowing produces a diseased body and brain. That is a big thing to that man. Multiply that sick man by 1,000 and you control the physical and mental welfare of a city. Multiply that man by 1,000,000 and you shape the physical and mental destiny of a state. Multiply that man by 130 million and you forecast and prophesy the physical and mental status of a nation. Now comes a man. Any one man is a small thing. This man gives an adjustment. The adjustment's a small thing. The adjustment replaces the subluxation. That's a small thing. The adjusted subluxation releases pressure on the nerves. That's a small thing. The released pressure restores health to the man. That is a big thing to that man. Multiply that well man by 1,000 and you step up physical and mental welfare of a city. Multiply that well man by 1,000,000 and you increase the efficacy of the state. Multiply that well man by 130 million and you have produced a healthy, wealthy, better race for posterity. So adjustment of the subluxation to release pressure upon the nerves, to restore mental impulse flow, to restore health is a big enough thing to rebuild thoughts and actions of the world. The idea that knows the cause, that can correct cause of disease, is one of the biggest ideas known. Without it, nations fall. With it, nations rise. This idea is the biggest that I know of. So I looked at her and I said, no, it's not just a little ear infection. Your kid needs to be adjusted as soon as possible. And he got his first adjustment yesterday. She's got him on good probiotics, some different fermented foods, and a chiropractic care plan. And the trajectory of his life in an instant completely changed.